Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Camila Galeano. I'm the recruitment specialist for CASA of Oklahoma County. So sorry for the inconvenience. We had this plan for yesterday, but we had some technical difficulties that I don't understand because, believe it or not, I'm a millennial, but technology and I just don't get along very well. We just couldn't make it happen, but we're here today with our training director, Nichole Dewberry. Um, so we are trying to do one of these live videos, live feeds once a week for the remainder of however many time we have left working remotely. Just to keep in touch with you guys, remind you about what we do, what CASA is, our mission, how to become a CASA, and all the fun stuff. As you all know, our office is closed and we're working remotely from home, like I said before. We're still open, we're still operating, we're still trying to do our best to serve our volunteers that are serving our children. Of course, we've had to do some adaptations, as everyone has had to do. So we're going to talk about that today. Also, yesterday, our executive director posted a video on our CASA Facebook group or Facebook page detailing our plans for COVID-19 and how we're coping with it. So if you want to go ahead and watch that, has some really good information. So I'm going to turn it over to Nichole so she can introduce herself, say hello, and what she actually does for CASA.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Nichole Dewberry, and I am the Director of Training for CASA of Oklahoma County. And so in order to be a CASA, after you go through the recruitment process with Camila and Kathy, once you've gone through your background checks and your interview, and once you're ready to go, you'll come to me and our training specialist, Jackie Rivers, and the two of us go through training with you. So pre-service training to become a court-appointed special advocate is an 8-week course. So every week, for 1 day a week, for 8 weeks, we meet together and we go over a number of topics. So our first class goes over introducing the CASA role. We talk about some of the key laws and really kind of get our feet wet learning about like what CASA is, how it started and where it came from. After CASA, after we do chapter 1, we move on to chapter 2, which is talking about child development and child abuse and neglect. Just because when you are working with these children, you should be knowing what a child should be doing at a certain age. You know, if you're advocating for a 2-year-old, you should know that a 2-year-old should be able to possibly walk. And if your kiddo is not walking or is having difficulty walking, that might be a red flag that as a CASA, you need to pay some more attention to that or make sure that that family that's watching or helping with that kid has resources. So our second chapter goes into detail talking about child growth and development. We talk about recognizing child abuse and neglect, and we also learn about how to talk with parents. So that's a really interesting chapter because we get to watch some really good videos and it's really awesome. Chapter 3 is where we really start to dive deep. We start talking about trauma, the different types of trauma, what these children are experiencing, what a CASA might need to do when they recognize that a child has been traumatized. And so we go over that and we go over how to talk with a child, what it looks like when you go to a foster home and you see that foster parent and introducing yourself to that foster parent and then introducing yourself to a child. Chapter 3 is also where we start working through our case studies. Most of our participants who go through the class say that that's when it really starts to get good, because in chapter 3, you get to actually sit down with an advocate supervisor and you go through a whole case. And so you get to experience what it's like to talk to a foster parent, to talk to a child, to talk to the child's teacher. And that's always really, really interesting. Chapter 4, we talk about poverty and mental illness. A lot of the people that you're going to be working with as a CASA experience mental illness, and a large part of our population is in poverty. And that's a whole nother culture, is what I tell people in class. Your socioeconomic status is just as important as your race or your gender. And so understanding what it's like to work with a family that is receiving assistance from the government, knowing what it's like to make sure that that family has the resources for a free lunch when the child starts school, or just understanding that things look different, you know, when you come from a different world, a different area code, a different zip code even. So we go over those two, and then we have another case study that experiences families going through situations of mental illness and poverty. In chapter 5, we break down substance abuse, and also a little deeper dive into cultural competency. So with substance abuse, we're talking about the chances of relapse, what it looks like when you're in court and you're meeting with the judge and the other people that are on the bench, the parent's attorney, the district attorney, the child's attorney, what that looks like when you're talking to them, especially when it has something to do with substance abuse. And then we dive deep into culture again. The week before was socioeconomic. Now we start to really kind of tackle the difference in gender, or not gender rather, but culture when it comes to race, and even a little bit of religion. Chapter 6 is domestic violence. Again, we talk about the different classes that are available, the different resources that are out there for those people who have experienced domestic violence, what those classes look like for both the people who are victims of domestic violence and those that have been causing the domestic violence. And again, most importantly, how that reacts, how that happens with the child. You know, what a child goes through when they are a witness of domestic violence. That's probably one of our most impactful classes. We watch some tough videos.
Oh,
Camila's nodding.
They always make me cry. I have a hard time going to that class every time.
They're strong. They're powerful. What we're learning and what we're talking about is some hard stuff. But I think, again, it puts us in the, it puts you in the child's shoes to recognize what it's like for these children. Again, after we talk about domestic violence, we dive deeper into cultural competency. We talk about, just again, different situations, what it's like, a religion versus a race versus a socioeconomic status, versus just, you know, somebody living on South Oklahoma City in comparison to North Oklahoma City. You know, it can be quite different. And so we do another case study. And then in chapter 7, we talk about educational advocacy. You know, a lot of the children that we serve as CASAs are struggling when it comes to school. And so we want to make sure that we're able to do, we're able to give the best care as a CASA when it comes to keeping track of IEPs, when it comes to keeping track of transcripts, attendance. You know, if a kiddo has moved from school to school to school, the CASA might be the one to say, you know what, I can go back to that first school and check with that teacher to see how they were doing when they were learning how to read. You know, there might not be a strong presence there, or the foster parent might just say, hey, I need some help here, or thank you so much for checking on that for me. We also talk about the LGBTQ population during this time. That's another population that sometimes needs a lot of extra attention, especially if it is our children who might be struggling with their identity, or just needing an extra ear that's going to say, hey, I see you, I see what you're going through. And so we talk about how to work through that. And then again, we have another case study that talks about those subjects in depth. The final chapter, chapter 8, is a real review process. We go over one more case study. We talk about just really getting them prepared. Usually by chapter 8, I'll tell you, sometimes these CASAs come in, or these participants come in, and they're a little nervous, which is understandable in the first few weeks. And by chapter 8, I always tell them, you know, you've got this. I know you've got this. And it's a great experience to see them grow. And so that final week is a recap. They also go over our Optima database with our program specialist, Ross Martin. And they get to learn how we input stuff into the computer. You know, when you go to talk to a kiddo, we need you to document that in our computer. And so chapter 8 goes over that in full. And that's our 8 weeks.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Nichole. It looks like we gotten some messages from Kathy, our recruitment director. Hi, Kathy. And also from Sandy Beemed, who's an awesome volunteer of ours. Hi,
Hi,
Sandy.
Cindy.
So that was Nichole just walking you through the training process. But like she said, before you actually get to training, you have to go through the recruitment and screening process, which Kathy North and I conduct. And that looks very different when it comes to outreach and all of that. So we can meet you for coffee. We do a lot of lunch and learns, info sessions. We capture information and the fact that you're interested, and then we reach out to you and answer every single question you might have. Before this whole ordeal that we're living right now, Kathy and I used to just go to coffee shops around the city and sit down with people and talk to them about becoming a CASA, the impact a CASA has, and everything, how CASA staff can support you, and all of that. So once that happens, you fill out an application online, which we can put in a link in the comments if you're interested. We can have BC, our communications director, just drop the link to the application. You fill that out, then you will receive a call or email from Kathy or myself. Then again, we ask if you have any questions. Then you will come for an confidential interview with Kathy and I. It's a very, very personal interview because we want to get to know you really well. As a CASA, you will have access to children and very sensitive information. So we want to make sure that we've gotten to get to know you really well because we're protecting our children, of course. After that happens, we check references, we check bunch of different backgrounds. We do sex offender, we do OSBIs. We vet you thoroughly for sure. And then that's when you go to Nichole and Jackie, our training specialists. And let me tell you, these people are amazing. I myself went through the training as I was required because every single staff member is required to go through the training just because we need to know what our prospective volunteers are going to be learning. The training was amazing. I enjoyed it so much. It opens your mind to so many things. Nichole does an awesome job of teaching the material, keeping you engaged, as does Jackie. They're a wealth of knowledge, as you can see, just like from listening to Nichole these last few minutes. They're amazing. Also, training is so great because you get to meet people from other backgrounds. We have classes between 15 and 20 people. We've gotten classes with 25 people, but it's often 15 to 20 people, different ages, different backgrounds, different, and it's amazing the kind of conversation that comes out of this discussions. Another thing that I really enjoyed in training was the case studies. Like Nichole mentioned, beginning week, was it week 4?
3.
Week 3, you begin doing case studies, which is kind of like a hands-on practice with an advocate supervisor. And you're actually putting yourself in the shoes of a CASA volunteer. Like, okay, what would I do now? Who would I contact? And then your supervisor is right next to you being like, okay, how about you look at it from this side? Or how about you contact this person first? And that's your first experience of real life CASA. So training is just wonderful. Few months ago, one of our classes that got sworn in, I thought it was really cool because I was in the room with them, and then one of the participants just got up and was like, hey y'all, can we start a group chat, a group me, or an email chain, because I want to keep in touch with all of you. And I thought that was awesome. That was just so great because CASA is also a family, our volunteer opportunity is like no other. It's a deep dive into the child welfare system, and it's complex and it's hard, but we make sure that you have a team behind you, a family behind you, and our volunteers do know that. So training is wonderful. Nichole is awesome, and so is Jackie. So like I mentioned before, due to COVID-19, all of us have had to make some adjustments. Things are changing, things are differently. I don't even know. But Nichole, if you want to tell us about the changes that you guys have had to make when it comes to training and how you guys have been able to adapt now that we're kind of doing this social distancing.
Sure. So we are anticipating a class to start the first week of April, and we already have a group that is scheduled to attend that class. And so with the changes, we will be conducting that class online. So it's on my list of things to do to reach out and talk to those people and the people that are enrolled in class right now, and just making sure that they're all good to go. And we will start an online class starting the first week of April. That online class will be still an anticipated 30 hours of training, which is the total amount of training as required by National CASA. So 24 of that is done live in face like this, or rather I shouldn't say 24 total, but we will be doing class together online like this, and then I will be sending those participants pre-work. They will receive their pre-work via email, and then they can do their readings. They can still watch all of their videos and still kind of work through all of the discussions that they're supposed to do on their own. And then we'll come together on an online platform, myself and Jackie, our training specialist, and then we'll be able to still have class. So we're anticipating providing that class a couple of times a week, each week. So instead of having chapter 1 be just one day, we'll probably hold it, one day like on a Monday, and then again on a Wednesday, and then again on a Thursday or something like that, just so that everybody can, with all of the changes and people needing to adjust their schedules, hopefully they'll be able to get in when they can. And so that class will start the first week of April, and then we'll end the first week, or the final week of May. And so that's 8 weeks of training, still conducting their pre-work and still doing the great case studies. We'll have advocate supervisors coming in for those classes to still work with the groups. I think it's going to be a great experience because they're still going to get that training. They're still going to get to see us. We'll still be able to provide our videos. It's just going to look a little different. It's just the adjustments that we'll be making, but still pushing through.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, like you said, we're all having to adapt, but that sounds like it's going to be a really fun class. Well, if you're just now tuning in, we're here with Nichole Dewberry, our training director for CASA of Oklahoma County, and we're just telling you guys about what the training process looks like, because a lot of people, when they hear about CASA, they're like, hey, that's great, that's awesome, but I know nothing about the child welfare system. I just don't know anything about the field, and that's totally fine. That's our job. Training prepares you to be able to become a CASA. It lays the groundwork, but then you have a supervisor with you once you get assigned to a case. And that's your lifeline for everything. That person knows the courtrooms, knows the law, knows the system, and they will be there for whatever you need and to help you be an advocate. But training is just wonderful. Then again, we give you all the tools that you might need to be an effective advocate. After training, you will still have all the support from advocate supervisors, from training, from recruitment. Like I said, CASA is just like a big family. So Nichole was talking about the adaptations that we're having to make because of COVID-19 and social distancing. But a little bit before, we talk about the regular training schedule. Those 8 weeks of training in a classroom setting at our building. When that happens, when we're actually able to go to work and be in the office, we also, during training, we were required to do court observations. So, Nichole, do you want to explain us a little bit what the court observations entail and the benefit of those for prospective CASAs?
Yes, thank you. So in addition to the training that we do live and hands-on, in addition to the pre-work, each CASA is required to attend a court observation. And that is when either myself or Jackie actually goes with the CASAs or with the participants for class into the courtroom, and they sit down and observe court. It usually lasts about 2 or 3 hours, and you are actually at the Juvenile Justice Building, which is where court takes place for juvenile cases, for juvenile deprived cases in Oklahoma County. And so you just kind of sitting there, and you're a fly on the wall. It's a great experience because you get to see what it looks like when a parent, a foster parent, even a child goes before the judge. I always make the lighthearted joke in class that it's not people's court. It's not Law and Order. There's not a banging of the gavel and I object. I mean, it's still a serious and a formal procedure, but it's not what a lot of people think when they think of court. And I think that that's something that kind of makes people nervous when they're considering volunteering, because they think they need to be an attorney. They think they need to have this experience. But really, first of all, we're going to get you there. We will definitely prepare you. But when these participants sit down in court and they see the conversations that take place, I've seen judges look at that CASA and say, CASA, tell me what you know. What have you figured out? What have you learned? When they recognize how important they are to the system. And sometimes, sometimes we might disagree with what somebody else is saying, or we might see something differently. So the DHS worker might say, oh, well, I noticed this. And then the CASA might say, oh, well, I noticed that. And you get to see this great opportunity for these minds to really melt together and come to a solution, or to come to a revelation that we need to do things differently, or good job, we're doing things right. And so, yes, that observation, I always tell people it's one of the most fulfilling parts of the training, because it really gets them a chance to say, oh, this is what it's like. And again, to recognize that CASAs are needed, because that judge is going to look at that CASA and say, help me out. What do you know? And the advocate supervisor during court is standing right next to their CASA. So again, I think some people think, oh no, I have to stand in front of the judge by myself. No, your advocate supervisor is right there with you. And I think that's very comforting, because it can be a little intimidating, but again, I think that it's just wonderful. All of the different opportunities, seeing different types of court, seeing different judges, seeing different situations. Sometimes the children are present and sometimes they're not. Sometimes the parents are present and sometimes they're not. Sometimes court takes 5 minutes and sometimes it takes 25 minutes. And so those core observations are an awesome opportunity for the future CASA to see what it's like.
I agree. We just got a message from Brandy, who is one of our newly sworn volunteers, and he said visiting drug court is an amazing opportunity as well. I totally agree. I love drug court. It's such a different experience. You get to see compassion. You get to see the system working. It was wonderful. It was a great experience for me, but court observation as a whole was great. My first court observation was quite an experience. I don't know if you remember, Nichole, but it was very fun. I definitely wanted to keep going back just to learn about the factors and things that happen into these cases, the families, the things that are involved. Just because how Nichole mentioned, doing training, you learn about domestic violence, substance abuse, poverty, and that's just the theory behind it. But once you go to court and you watch all of these factors come into play at the bench, you put faces to these issues and you see that people are struggling. So court observation is definitely great. Like Nichole said, a lot of people are intimidated by it. When Kathy and I first talk to someone and they think the concept is wonderful, they tell us, what about court? I've never been to court before. I don't know how to write a court report. That's what we're here for. That's what our whole stuff is here for. And like Nichole mentioned earlier as well, you get to see people grow. When Kathy and I first interview them and ask them questions about what they know about CASA or the field or whatever, and then once they get sworn in as an officer of the court, you see these people blossom into these wonderful advocates that are going to change a kid's lives. And that's so rewarding for us as staff members, just to see that happening. We've gotten some other messages. Tasha Alexander, who's a wonderful volunteer of us,
Tasha.
Enjoy training a lot. Hi, Tasha. And BC, our communications director, told me that I was messing with the mic. So I'm sorry. I move my hands a lot. So
you talk with your hands.
I know. I want to try to keep them to the side. So if you're just tuning in now, we're here with Nichole Dewberry, our training director, and we were just telling you guys about the training process, what that looks like, the things that you learn in training, and all this fun stuff. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, we are trying to do one of this each week with different staff members, just telling you about what all of us do behind the scenes, our mission, the work that we're doing during this pandemic. Sounds ominous, pandemic. Well, but that's what it is. During this difficult time for everyone, how we're adjusting, how we're adapting to all these changes that we're facing. So we're hoping to just come to your house through the computer, not like physically come, but come to your screens every week with different information about CASA and all the fun stuff that we do. Anything else that you want to tell people about training, Nichole?
We're anticipating, so we have a class that's already enrolled and ready to go for April, but I believe I don't believe, we are anticipating having classes again to start in June. Since they last 8 weeks, we don't have a bunch of classes going. One class is enough for sure. So we usually juggle more than one, but I know that recruitment is taking applications for June.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That was my part. Yeah, thank you. Oh, you're so awesome.
We work good together.
Yes. Yes. So we're actually taking applications for that class that will begin in June. As of right now, things will look a little different when it comes to interview. So our recruitment director and myself are conducting virtual interviews. We can do it through Skype, Teams, Zooms, whatever platform you're able to use. So if you're interested in becoming a CASA, feel free to ask us any questions, go to our website, anything like that. And then we're going to drop a link for the application in the comments as well. So then again, we have another class coming up in June. Hopefully, we actually don't know what that class is going to look like. We don't know if it's going to be a virtual class. We don't know if it's going to be a physical class. We just don't know how things are going to play out for the next few months. But class is definitely going to happen. So if you're interested, please apply, and then we'll go from there. We'll email you, we'll call you, we'll answer all your questions, and then we'll get you ready for training with awesome Nichole.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you, and I just can't stress enough, like Camila was saying, it really is a process. And I know a lot of people come through. We just had someone recently that when they started were saying, they were nervous and weren't sure if they were going to say the right things. And by week 5, I was like, oh no, you guys got it. I think that if you have the compassion to consider being a CASA, I encourage you to give it a chance and go through training and see that it is not as intimidating. It's not as scary as it seems, because you've got such a great team. And this is a great situation. We've got a great process here, and we will get you where you need to be a great CASA. So I look forward to seeing you guys if you're interested in applying and coming to training. And yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Nichole. I agree with you 100%. We have so many children in need of an advocate, of a voice. We're often referred to as in the eyes and ears of the court. The judges want to hear from you. They want your input in order to make these life-changing decisions for these children. And the entire staff at CASA is ready to help you navigate that and to get you trained, to just be a support system for you whenever you're ready to become one. So please apply to become a CASA. You get to train with the amazing Nichole. You get to meet a lot of other staff members. You get to interview with me, which is really fun sometimes. It's a good time overall. So yeah, we'll hope to speak. We're going to try to do it Thursday at 2 p.m. again, just to be consistent. Hopefully Facebook is not having any issues then. But yeah, we'll look forward to hearing from you guys, maybe with some questions or applying, or however you want to support CASA. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you. Bye.
Happy